Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Magistrate Lankins,
Here.
Magistrate Tice,
Here.
Magistrate Harrison,
Here.
Magistrate Greenwell,
Here.
Magistrate Hounds,
Here.
Magistrate Hawkins,
Here.
Magistrate Dye,
Here.
Magistrate Logston,
Here.
and Judge Vogel.
Here, having all members of the fiscal court, this meeting is now in session. Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I'd like to add after contracts and resolutions, after item E, we have a flood mitigation grant award to be approved. Are there any other items that the members of the court would like to add today? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our next normal report here would be to read the minutes, but I'm going to ask with the dispensing of reading the minutes today.
So moved.
Second. Motion to approve the minutes?
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion
Aye.
carries. One vote passed 8-1. Thank you. The Teresa Gamsky is not here today to give us a report on our COVID relief. So we'll skip that. I believe that we're doing all right. Magistrate Harrison.
Yes, sir. Would it be appropriate at this time for me to say a little bit about the Board of Health? I
Yes.
plan on doing it after her presentation. I think all of us, both in this group and countywide, are overdue in thanking Teresa and her staff over the Board of Health. They normally don't deal with what they're having to deal with now. They focus primarily on life issues and improving life in Oldham County, and now they're having to deal with sickness and death. They really haven't had training for that. I don't think you can train for that anymore. You can train for actual combat, but they're doing an excellent job of it, and it's got to be very tiring and wearing on them. So I'm using this to express my gratitude and support for everything they're doing.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So we'll go on now to our next item is public comment, but we really don't have anyone who's joined us in our fiscal court chamber today for today's meeting. So let's go ahead and open our salt bid now. This is, we've got 5 companies that have bid on the salt for the coming fiscal year, coming winter. And all right, I can't, go ahead. No, all right, we won't. The first bid is from Cargill. The the delivery price is $105.94 a ton. The next bid is from Compass Minerals of Overland Park, Kansas, $80.48 per ton. We'll have to look at the thing carefully. It doesn't say delivered. I assume it is. That's one of our specs was delivered, so. Next one is this is from Detroit Salt Company, $86.71. Says there 3 business days notice, I guess. Next one is Morton Salt, $86.95 a ton. Last bid is from Maxi Salt of North America, and that's from Fort Wayne, Indiana, $78 per ton. And that was the lowest bid, but we'll have to determine if the specifications of the agreements meet our objectives. Okay. And we'll give those to the road department to, or make a determination and the recommendation at the next meeting. All right. Move on now to the second item on the agenda, the bid award for the senior center cabinetry and countertops. We have that, Melissa? Rodney, all right. Rodney Gabbert is here with us, and, all right, Rodney, go ahead.
This is to have all the cabinetry in the kitchen area of the senior center completely taken out and new fab countertops and all new cabinetry.
All right, he's not showing up on screen? Okay. All right. The technical difficulties we've had have messed this up, so I don't know how we'd overcome that.
For $11,800.
You want to come up here and give it to me, or come around? Melissa will show you how to get here. All right. The bid is from, okay, the bid is from Smith Laminating of Mount Washington, $11,800. I believe it's the only bid we received.
Yes.
Is that correct? All right. Thank you. And did you, I think you want to give that to building committee, or do you want to? All right. Mr. Likens, Brent Magistrate Likens, are we prepared for a recommendation today from the building committee on this?
I think we'll take that up in our meeting, second Wednesday, come back to the board.
All right. The maintenance director would like to award that today if we can. We only had one bid. All right. Why don't you go ahead and see if it meets the specifications and then come back before the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. The next item now has to do with the county administration, our payables. You're ready? I'll accept a motion to pay the bills.
So moved.
Are there any questions regarding anything on the payables? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. All right.
Judge,
Yes, sir.
before we move on, can you make sure that Melissa tells us that Smith Laminating is in good standing also before we award that?
All right. Rodney?
Judge, didn't we open up these bids last fiscal court?
Can you check with the treasurer to make sure that Smith Laminating is in good stand with the Secretary of State?
Yes.
He couldn't hear you from where he's seated. All right, we're ready to move on. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing regarding county road aid and local government assistance funds for the year, fiscal year 2021. This is a public hearing. Anyone in the community who would like to suggest how those road aid funds or public assistance funds should be spent was invited to be here today or to submit questions to us. We have no attendees, and nor do we had we received any questions submitted to us from anyone in the public. So at this point, I'm going to close the public hearing on the county road aid and local government assistance funds and go on to the next item on our agenda. And that would be the second reading of the budget for year 2021. You have it before you. We've discussed this. This is our second reading. First reading was submitted to the Department of Local Government, approved, it came back as to form. We've made some adjustments to different budget items since then. You've received copies of those adjustments, and so at this time, I'd like to get a recommendation on the floor to approve the budget, and then if there are discussion items, we'll go forward from there.
Second.
Moved and seconded that the budget for 2021 be approved as submitted. Is there any discussion? Magistrate Hawkins.
On the top of page 9, as well as on the top of page 10, in bold, it says fiscal year 2020 budget. Last year's, 2019, also said fiscal year 2020 budget. So I'm under the assumption that this one was fiscal year 2021.
Mine does say for the fiscal year ending June 30th, pardon?
Stephanie might be looking at an old one.
Mine does say for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021.
This is the one I'm looking at. It says 2021. Maybe you've got to, no, go to the page before that, Michael. I believe.
That's page 9. And here's page 10. It says 2021.
Okay. Go to the page before that one.
What does it say, what does it say on your page?
Page 8 says 2029 or 2021 also.
Right here. Can you all see that?
What is, Stephanie, what's on your
I'll
cover
have to
sheet?
wait till after the budget hearing.
On my cover sheet, it's 2021.
Show it again. That's not the current one.
Okay.
The current one has below that another line that says second reading 6/2/2020. Revised
Gotcha.
6/2/2020.
I see what you're saying, though. I see what you're saying, Stephanie, on page 9 and 10. I think that's just a header issue.
Yeah. It probably is just a. Should it be fixed though?
It's the very first line, right above the word that says safe routes to schools. It says fiscal year 2020. And on page 9, it says real estate tax right above that says fiscal year 2020 budget. But that's the only place, I just searched the whole document, that's the only place that is, in those two.
Okay. So.
Well,
my
that'd
cover
be
page-
corrected.
My cover page needs to be different. Yeah.
Which page are you on, Stephanie?
Chris, what page was that?
It's page number 9, number 10.
I don't think you have the right version of the budget.
It's the version that's published on the web. I just looked at it. It's right
Sent out a new
above.
one today. She
Sent a
sent a
new-
new one out today. At noon today, she sent another one out.
Yes, she did.
Thank you.
I'm gonna check my email. Hold on. Did you say today?
Yeah, it came in about 12.
12:34. Okay. But the only changes to this then are the ones that the judge sent this morning. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. I mean, in the meat of it.
Yes, right. That's the items on the change sent this morning. So
No other items have been changed in this one that Melissa sent, other than that date at the top? Or were there, and then the ones that the judge sent this morning, is that correct? Or are there other?
Stephanie, you need to look at the email that I sent. There's a second attachment that has the changes from the first reading.
I got it right here.
Those are all the changes from the first reading.
Okay. I've been following it along in the email. I just didn't find this bulk, pull it all, all together in bulk here at the back of this one. So,
Right, we're a little disadvantaged in the fact that we're trying to, we've been operating here for several weeks, and none of us have been together at a meeting. We've all been dealing with emails and separate communication, and none of us have been handed the same piece of paper in person at the same time, so. The only changes were the ones that were sent out this morning. And they're pretty minor for the most part.
Judge.
Yes, sir.
I have those, I just didn't have it in this, all bulk together form.
Okay.
Judge, for clarification, under parks mower added back in, that's mower added back in as needed, not necessarily for purchase.
Yes, right. What you received from Melissa was, didn't include my clarifying comments there, right. We added it back in if we're not gonna spend the money to buy it, unless we have one break and we have to have one. But, so I think that was the objective of not having it in there, but some wanted it in, but we won't spend the money unless we have to have it, and it won't be a discretionary item, it'll be something that Gary brings to me that one of the mowers is broken and we need to have to replace it, not that we just want another one to use. So what Melissa sent out was the net result of the changes that I had made. So that, for example, we of course eliminated the gymnasium, not permanently, but just for the coming fiscal year. The changes at the John Black Community Center were originally proposed to be 1.6 million. We've taken $1.1 million out and dropped it down to 500,000 for an additional room on the east side of the building. So these are the net results of what was there. Westport Park was 500,000. We took out 420,000, getting us down to 28,000 to use for a planning study by a professional landscape planner to recommend suggestions. And then in the future, we'll take one of those suggestions one at a time and determine what we're going to do at Westport Park. So those are the changes are there. We did add the dump truck back in. There was 2 trucks were taken out. Road committee recommended that 1 be added back in, and we're happy to do that. So are there any other questions about the budget?
Yes, sir, I have one.
Okay.
On the Rollington Road redesign, this seems to be a sort of like a toothache. We've been talking about this. We've had all kinds of numbers floated around, from $2 million down to 500,000, down to 320, and we've done all these things. I'm still of the opinion, because Rollington Road doesn't, it has a higher rating in our road book, which we just came out, than some other roads that probably could stand to use some more work on them other than Rollington. Now, I understand everybody gets it. There's the safety issues involved and everything. We've got safety issues on a lot of roads. But I still think that we shouldn't leapfrog on our pavement management program project, and I think that number should be eliminated, or at least brought down under the same concept that we're doing with Westport Park. In other words, I've been down the road more than once, and I was shocked when I first heard 500,000. It's a small and narrow road. I get that. I'm not taking anything away from it. The culvert needs to be expanded. I'm not taking anything away from that. I understand it, some work needs to be done. But I just, for the life of me, I can't see where there's and here again, the length of what the county's responsible for moves around too. That's like a moving target too. It's been from 800 feet to 3,000 feet. Until we get our head around exactly what we're doing here, I have no problem doing a budget amendment later on, and I'm sure the court would agree with us. If something needs to be done, it needs to be done. But to arbitrarily just put $320,000 out there, does that mean, well, we could get by with no curbs, just a shoulder? I mean, I was told you could take the ditch out and put a curb in, but those trees on the other side of the road, you could cut the trees down cheap and put a curb in and get rid of the ditch. there's too many moving parts yet to put a number on it. So I'm still of the opinion, along with the finance committee, that needs to come out, and we need to get our head around it. It jumped up at the last second, and I think that the old adage that our parents used to tell us, haste makes waste, I think applies here. I think that should be amended. I'm willing to amend my original motion to remove that until and move it at least to see this, whatever words you want to put in there, as needed or as recommended, as work to be as recommended, but just not throw a big number in there.
All right, I want to clarify one thing here, that the amount, what the number you're looking at is the removal from 500,000 of 320. So Jim Silliman, I asked him for a number for the cost of designing changes and constructing them. I did ask him for that last week, and that's what he gave me, was 180,000. So that number has been successively reduced down as the amount of work to be done there has been trimmed back. The original design was from either Old Mill or Mill Road, I'm not sure, the intersection there, all the way down to the county line. So, and then there was the discussion about, is it going to be ditched or is it going to have curb and gutter? So where we are now is Rollington Road over a very narrow bridge to the first street there. So the project has been reduced significantly to get down to 180,000 from what it was. And I agree as far as staying with the pavement management system is a good tool that's been developed and used over the years. And I support the use of that tool. But I don't support it exclusively, in the sense that there are projects done that are on the pavement management system that are lower rated than some of the ones that we're going to do here this spring. I think there are reasons why we've chosen them, because they're in neighborhoods where we can do some roads and there's mobilization to cover other roads and avoid that cost. I mean, a lot of good decisions are made, but the pavement management itself does not override the wisdom of the entire fiscal court as to what needs to be done in any particular circumstance. And I'm in favor of giving a degree of deference to every magistrate who has something he would like to accomplish in his district. He feels he needs it for whatever reason. And I think if the dollar amount gets to be really significant, then we have to question it more aggressively. But this is not a huge amount of money for fixing an area with a narrow road and a bridge that two cars cannot meet on. And as I mentioned the other day, I've been struck myself in that area by a car passing the other way. We didn't have enough room. I'm sure he blamed me. I blamed him. Well, let's fix this a little bit and just end the discussion about it. It's not going to break the bank. It's something that Magistrate Logston feels he needs in that district, and I'm willing to accept his leadership in that regard.
Judge, can I help you out for just a second?
Sure.
Some of the magistrates have raised their hand, and I don't think that you can see everybody on your screen.
No, this is one of the things here now. You have to basically help me out here. I see I see 4 or 5 people, but I can't see everybody unless I change the screen on this. So go ahead.
If the court will allow me, I can see everybody's screen, and if you raise your hand, Judge, I'll try to orchestrate who gets to speak next, if that's okay.
Yes,
Okay.
sir, Judge.
Well,
I-
pardon?
what-
Go ahead.
Michael-
All right, I know Michael Logston like to speak. Go ahead. I can still manage the meeting here.
I wish I had a playback on my computer, but did we just say that the more was added back in? If we didn't need it, then we wouldn't spend it? So what's the difference between this being in there in the budget and we decide not to use it versus not?
Measure Greenwell.
Thank you, Judge. Michael, in response to your question, the more has been in the budget all along. Rollington Road just appeared 2 weeks ago out of the clear blue.
But we don't have to spend it, just like we don't have to spend it for the mower if we choose not to, right?
My response to that is the pavement management system stands on its own. What I guarantee my constituents in my district is safe roads and to take the politics out of the asphalt business. And so roads are rated as they become available, they get paved, and I don't see any reason why this one should jump ahead of two other ones that I know of that are just as bad. In fact, they rate worse, and that would be 18 Mile Creek Road and Glenarm Road.
Can I ask the question then?
That are
When you're rating, is the rating for asphalt or is that for fixing roads?
It's for all aspects of the road, as in the surface determines the safety of the road.
Magistrate Harrison.
I think Michael and I are thinking kind of the same way. Exactly what is the intent or the purpose behind the pavement management system? Because when you look at the different rating columns, they all pertain to the surface, to the asphalt itself. They don't go beyond the edges of the asphalt. So it's not really a road maintenance, a road management system. It's a pavement management system. So maybe I'd feel better if somebody can tell me exactly what is the intent of it. I'm confused.
Magistrate Likens.
Yes, Judge,
Oh,
that
go
was
ahead.
exactly what I was going to say. And maybe we could get Jim Silliman to explain to us how the pavement management system works in regard to improving roads and not just paving the pavement on the existing road.
Okay. Did I miss a hand? Magistrate Greenwell, did you say something there? Okay.
Yes, Judge, just to go back in time about how we adopted this, we went to Fayette County. They had Fayette County urban government, just like Jefferson County does. And we said, how do you pave your roads? And they say, we have a measurement system, a grading system. And so that way it takes the politics out of the equation, and the worst roads get paved first. And if somebody calls up and says, why isn't my road being paved? That is because it doesn't grade as low as some of the other ones. And so it's just so simple to keep it that way, not jump roads ahead of that, because then I don't have an answer for my constituents when they say, why didn't my road get paved? And I say, well, we jumped one ahead of the other ones.
Magistrate Harrison.
Well, Steve, I think your explanation didn't really address the point that we were trying to get to, because all of your explanation involved around a single word of paving. Everything was paving, didn't have a thing to do with road improvement. It doesn't have anything to do with shoulders, doesn't have anything to do with ditch lines, drainage, cross drains, or drop off at the edge of pavement. We've got several places we put so much asphalt on road that you got from a 4 to 6 inch vertical drop off at the edge of pavement. And it's getting to the point now, if a car runs off the edge, it cannot recover and get back up on the road. Now, I think that may be part of the reason one of our trucks rolled on 524 a couple of weeks ago.
Magistrate Greenwell.
That's a state highway, Albert, and I can't talk or address that. If there are roads that have a 4 to 6 inch drop off, it's probably because politics played into it, and the same road kept getting paved every 4 years because it was a favor, and so we took that out of it.
Au contraire, we don't have anything that addresses shoulders. You can only put so much asphalt on top of other asphalt without the pavement getting narrower, because you got nothing underneath it to support it. So we're putting asphalt on a road that has no support on the outside edges. We may lay down 20 feet of asphalt, but you only end up with 19 feet of effective asphalt, because we're not treating the edges. That's the weakest part of a road. Brent, you can help.
I agree to that. When you build a road, you put your dense grade a foot wider than your asphalt pavement.
Magistrate
And you put
Logston.
your binder wider than the finishing.
Magistrate Logston.
Judge, you know what? I've always admired the way Oldham County does their paving, because again, I said this last meeting. A lot of counties just give out money and then they have to fix their own roads, and it does become political. To me, this I'm not trying to jump ahead of anybody. The paving of the road down down there. There's no potholes. There's no nothing. The paving of the road is an 80. The safety of the road and the width of the road is the problem. It has nothing to do with the pavement on there. And that's where I don't understand our paving system. I love our paving system because it takes the politics out of the road building when it comes to paving it. But we don't have a system that works for widening the road and fixing ditches. And I asked this to be done 10 years ago because it needed to be done. People keep getting messed up on this road. This has nothing to do with politics. I love the way we grade our roads, but to me, the grading of the road that we use is only for asphalt itself, not fixing roads. And that's just the way I look at it. If I'm wrong, I totally apologize, and I will admit if I'm wrong.
Okay, I think Magistrate Hawkins had her hand up. Did you?
I did. I'm looking under this one that Melissa just sent, or somebody just sent it at 12:30, and there was a line in here under road improvements for 150,000 drainage improvements. Is that?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
That's not this. That's something totally different.
What kind of drainage improvements / road projects is that?
That's for the road department to make as needed road improvements to drainage ditches, kind of a supplement per se, maybe to the stormwater, things that come up throughout the year that is not seen at this time.
Gotcha.
But I'd like to make a comment.
One second.
You might not.
Magistrate Lawson, I know that I understand, and I'm not trying to pick a fight with you about this, but I struggle with the number of incidents that you're talking about on that road. The traffic count doesn't match, doesn't come up, doesn't make sense. The number of reports to dispatch don't make sense then. If people are scraping mirrors and doing all these things that you're talking about, why don't we know more about it? And I understand. I mean, I know that there are some issues there. I'm not disputing about the road. I guess I'm going to go back for just a second. Judge, I guess in the original, in the original motion, is Rollington Road in or Rollington Road out? I'm confused. Out. So the comment that the current motion that's on the floor that we're doing discussion with has Rollington Road out of the equation. Is that correct, Magistrate Dye?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
The second wasn't amended, though.
He made the motion, but it was his attempt to amend his original recommendation was not seconded thus far. All right,
Do
Magistrate
you have
Dye.
a motion inside of a motion?
I don't know. Mr. Carter, can I have a motion? I'm sorry. Okay. He wasn't.
We have a
Okay, he's.
motion on the floor to.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the budget. Magistrate Dye has attempted to amend his motion to approve the budget by deleting work on Rollington Road. So far, no one has seconded that.
I'll second it.
All right. Now we'll comment. We'll have a little more discussion on that and take a vote. Magistrate Dye?
I've been sitting back listening to the discussion about is it road, is it pavement, is it safety, is it curb, is it this and that. My motion doesn't take into account of any of that. What I'm attempting to do with taking the road out, and I'm not saying I agree with everything Magistrate Lawson said. I don't have any way to prove or disprove anything that's been put forward. I've been on the road. I've seen the road. It's a narrow road. Yes, it's like a lot of roads in Oldham County. But what I'm trying to do here is take the money out, and if this is going to be our quote, the road that we actually incorporate a second set of standards with the pavement management system, this is the one we can start on. But right now, all I see is the money to put in there to do what? It says here I believe the word is used here. Hold on, I'll find it again. Design, redo, the road and road design. I didn't think we were designing a road. We've got just trying to make it better. So
Well,
taking the money.
we're not
Wait a
design-
minute, let me finish. Taking the money out is not going to, in the long term, impact getting this road repaired to make it more safe at some time in the future. Is that tomorrow, next week, next month, next year? I don't know. But if everybody's so concerned about taking on one facet of it, the pavement management versus these other things, and like Albert said, with the you keep putting asphalt, after a while your road's going to be a foot tall unless you start milling it down. So all those things need to be taken into consideration. Maybe the road needs to be milled and re-asphalted. I don't know. But it needs to be put in the hands of an engineer that says, this is the best, most equitable plan, and this is what I would recommend to do. I have not seen that. All I've heard is innuendo and what people want and all of that. I just think if we're going to change something, if we're going to start a new era in this road business in Oldham County, then let's make this one the start. Or we continue the way we've been doing it.
I don't think we're gonna make a
That's all
new,
I got to say about it.
I don't think we're gonna make a new era. We had a request to fix a circumstance that the person in his district feels is dangerous. It's not the only dangerous thing in Oldham County. Nevertheless, as county judge, I'm not willing to let two employees determine what roads we pave in this county. This is, I haven't challenged any road pavement decision in the 10 years I've been county judge. I've gone with what the recommendations of the road committee have been. And in this particular case, I think this is something that needs to be done. And I just can't understand why we're not changing anything. We're taking in this man, you said, how we'll take care of it next year, next week. He's been asking for it for 7 years, and I think it's long enough. Magistrate Likens.
Yes, Judge, I think we need to start a new era. I'd like to see that number go from 180,000 to 1.8 million. And let's go ahead and do Cedar or Glenarm Road and 18 Mile Creek. And let's get this started. This is just a start, in my opinion. It doesn't matter whether it's number 5 in the rating or number 1 or number 10. It's just the start of something that we know needs to be done right now.
Right, and we have other roads that it's beyond paving. These are fixing these roads and making them safer. And I think everybody has the same idea here. But, all right, I think we've had a motion and a second. We've got any more comments on this? Magistrate Hawkins.
Magistrate Dye, did you take, in your motion, did you take Rollington Road all the way out, or did you reduce the number?
Take it all, you could reduce it to 0.
Okay, I just wanted to understand what's voting on here.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and, make a decision on this. We've got pardon?
Albert has his hand up.
I can't see it, I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison. Go ahead. Albert Harrison.
Thank you, Judge. I think our focus needs to be redirected. I'm sorry if people have lost mirrors. I'm sorry if people have been sideswiped. What bothers me is the little kid on the bicycle that tries to get off the road and can't, or the couple walking the dog and have their kids on bikes going down the road. There are no sidewalks down there. And for the most part, there's no place to run and no place to hide. But if you have to get off the road, you're either going to break an ankle, jump in a ditch, hit a tree, or get hit by a car. We should be focused on making the road safe for everybody, not just the drivers. And I'm concerned about the people who live down there and walk on a regular basis up and down that road. We need to be looking at that.
Okay, Magistrate Hawkins.
I've got a question. If this gets voted down with this amendment, then where do we go from here, since this budget is supposed to start in a couple of weeks, 4 weeks or less?
If it gets voted down, we'll just, it just stays on the pavement management system, and I've asked it, I think I asked at the last meeting somewhere for magistrates to generate suggestions for roads that need safety improvement, okay? And I did receive one on 18 Mile Creek. I think one that Steve mentioned there in Crestwood is right. I've been on that road. That is a road that needs a safety improvement. So, but to make those safety improvements is probably gonna mean buying property from people. It's not, we're gonna get on, we're gonna get on people's property to improve some of these and make them wider and some of these hairpin turns and whatever. And I'm just gonna throw one more thing in about Rollington. I had a scrape with a guy down there. I didn't call the police. I just kept on going, and I think that probably happens more often than we think. And so anyway. Okay, we've got a motion second. I think we need to call the roll on this amendment.
Can we read the motion, please?
Okay, the motion is that the second reading be approved, but that Rollington Road, all work on Rollington Road for the time being, be new work, let's put it that way, be deleted. So we're not gonna widen from Houston to through the bridge, and not gonna widen that bridge out or put another culvert under there to make it a wider circumstance. So that's what the motion
For
is.
Rollington Road, do we vote no on this?
If you want, you're right. If you, well, no, the suggestion is it be the recommendation is it be taken out. So if you want it taken out, you vote yes. If you are willing to let it stay in, you vote no. Does everybody understand that?
Magistrate Logsdon has a question.
Pardon?
Magistrate Logsdon had a question.
Okay. Measure Logston.
This is strictly on Rollington Road itself, not the budget, right?
Yes, right. This part has to do with Rollington Road. Magistrate Hawkins.
This is for the budget. Vote yes to vote for the budget, which would exclude Rollington Road, because the motion is for this budget. Is that correct?
Well, I think it is correct, but I think the item here is Rollington Road, and unless there is nothing else, I don't want to introduce another question about another item and get it confused, so why don't we just vote on Rollington Road right now and leave the question is to maintain Rollington Road in the budget recommendation or to take it out. Is everybody satisfied with that?
And is there a compromise that we can come to that would satisfy the finance committee and everybody else?
Doesn't sound like it unless one of the finance committee members wants to make a recommendation. I don't think so.
I've made my recommendation, and I just want to clarify one thing. If you vote Rollington Road out of the budget, that doesn't mean it's a dead issue. It's not what it means at all. It means that we're going to look at it, and as I said earlier, if this is if this is what we're going to be trying to do, which we should be trying to do, which Albert very put out with the people walking and dogs and kids and stuff, if that is what I use the word era, if that's what we're trying to do, you're not depriving those people over there of anything. And that's not my intent. My intent is, let's start with a number, 0, and work up from there. It's not like if we've got the $180,000 now, we'll have it tomorrow. We'll have it July the 2nd. But I just feel like that this is going to fall into just the same status quo. And I think we have an opportunity here to seize that. I'm afraid some people are so afraid that they're going to lose this $180,000 into Rollington Road, and that's not the case at all. Every one of us in this screen here have got roads they can mention. The judge said he didn't hear anything from me, not particularly pointed me out. He knows about Hounds Lane. I don't have to send him an email to tell him about Hounds Lane. But, I quit asking about Hounds Lane 4 years ago because he told me for 4 years no. So I don't need to be told no more than 4 times. So
Albert has had his hand up for.
Right, okay. Albert Harrison.
Thank you, Judge. I'm not sure we're on good footing here to try to combine motions and have one that amounts to an either or, and I'll defer to a county attorney on that. I think we should withdraw whatever motions we got on the floor right now and start over again and address only Rollington Road. confusion. And then we get that out of the way, then we go back and look at the whole budget.
Well, I think that's what I said. I think I said we would just.
That's not the motion, Judge.
You want to restate a motion, Magistrate Dye?
Are we starting over from the beginning? Are we gonna do Rollington amend the budget? Or the budget?
No, state your,
Withdraw your motion and then go back.
I'm talking to the judge.
I'm trying to help, Bob.
I'm talking to the judge. How do you want me to do it, Judge? You're the chairman.
I want you to, you made a motion to amend your original motion to delete Rollington Road from consideration from this budget, and that was seconded. I think we need to vote on whether or not that stays in or out of the second reading.
Yeah, I think,
Just
Judge,
second, please.
this is the county attorney. I think Albert Harrison is correct. Bob, I think your motion, Magistrate Dye, I think your motion needs to be to amend the budget to delete the part of the budget that relates to Rollington Road.
I think that's what I just said.
And you did. You did. But what we have on the floor is a motion to amend the motion, and the motion is to approve the budget.
All right, so our,
The budget, okay.
is that your motion, Magistrate Dye?
Yeah, to amend the motion, the original motion to remove Rollington Road.
All right.
And then approve the budget.
Second?
Well, we'll approve the budget on a different vote, please.
Yes, that's how
Okay.
you would do it.
Okay. And that was seconded by, your motion was seconded by whom?
Steve.
Okay, Magistrate Greenwell, all right? You second that, okay? All right, let's,
We'll have another Rollington question.
okay, final question.
Final question. At last fiscal court meeting, didn't we meet with Jim Silliman, and did he give us a number for Rollington Road, or did he not?
He did, 180,000.
Okay, that's what I remember too. So why couldn't we have 180,000 in there for Rollington Road, which is much less than the 2 million? And I think that would be a good compromise.
Yeah, it is, and
Magistrate,
that's what it's in there for, is 180. That's what it's in there
You know
for.
which way to vote then.
What?
What does that mean, Magistrate Dye? What are you saying?
If you think the 180,000 is not a compromise, it's already in there. So just vote no on the amendment.
Well, no, don't tell me how to vote, but
I'm not, but that's the answer to your question.
I don't think it has to be 2 million or zero. If Jim recommended the 180, then why not amend your motion to state the 180?
He doesn't want the 180.
180 in it now.
Pardon me?
The budget has the 180 in it now.
But your motion was to eliminate Rollington Road to zero, and
Correct.
He doesn't want to have any new money spent for new work on that section of Rollington Road. He wants it to go from 180 to zero. I don't know where you're coming up with that $2 million figure from.
okay.
That's not an exact, that's not right, Judge. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that we need to remove it and then start again with the whole idea of what we're trying to do here. I'm not saying eliminate any work on Rollington Road. That's not what I'm saying at all.
I said new work. And then we don't need to start over with a new number. I got a number, 180. We don't need to be restarting, and we don't need the magistrates to second guess the county engineer's number. It's 180. So,
We don't need the fiscal court to do that.
or what did I say?
Magistrates.
Yeah, well, same group. Yeah, I mean, you know, we don't, starting over again doesn't, we're not going to get to a different number. That's the number, 180. So, okay, Sheila, please call the roll. Okay, remember, if you support Magistrate Dye's recommendation, you're voting yes. If you do not support it, you're voting no. Sheila?
Magistrate Likens,
No.
Magistrate Greenwell,
Yes.
Magistrate Helms,
Yes.
Magistrate Dye,
Yes.
Magistrate Logston,
No.
Magistrate Tice,
Yes.
Magistrate Harrison,
No.
Magistrate Hawkins,
No.
and Judge Vogel.
No. All right, motion fails. All right, thank you. Now, we'll move on to the, any other discussion about any other item in the agenda here? Or, I mean, in the proposed second reading.
I make a motion that we accept it as presented with Rollington Road in it.
Yeah, well, okay,
Second.
okay. Discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Okay, I have Greenwell opposed, who else?
Yeah,
Guy, Towns. 3 opposed.
All right, motion carries 6-3. Thank you. Pardon? Okay. The next item on
Albert
the,
has his hand up, please.
sorry,
Albert.
okay, Albert Harrison, and then Wayne Tice will be next.
Thank you, Judge. Just for my own peace of mind, could we make a decision whether we vote aye or nay when we're opposed to something? I'm used to the presider being able to say the ayes have it or the nays have it, but we're voting aye on everything, whether we're for it or against it. So I think it's directly in opposition to Robert's rules. Anything else I've ever read.
All right,
Hi, Teresa.
I think he's right.
okay, I see her here, okay. All right, we'll try to do that. I think Magistrate Tice had his hand up too.
And we approved the budget as to the last revision that we got this morning. And I assume that is correct. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And those voting against approving the budget, is there any other reason other than the vote we just talked that we need to be aware of as other magistrates that didn't work on the budget? Or is it just because of the last issue we just talked about?
I can answer that, Judge. No, that's the only issue we have at this time. Everything else was worked out in amicable discussion.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was clear that we weren't, the rest of us were not missing anything.
No, we, as I stated earlier on, I mean, I've only had like a few phone calls to the magistrates about what's in the budget. So, but, you know, I guess they read it as well as I did.
Good, that's it.
All right, good. So, and as I mentioned, I think we need to sit down and take a look at the safety. I think Magistrate Likens had a good recommendation there. Other roads were mentioned. You know, we have roads in our paving project here for this spring that that have a higher rating than some roads that are still in the lower category rating in our system. So I agree that we want to be as fair and impartial and not have politics involved. But I don't think the human element and decision of the fiscal court can be totally eliminated in a circumstance that is brought to our attention. So if it was an ongoing and continual problem of people arguing about roads, I would say, you know, I wouldn't be in favor of that at all. And I don't think we've had that. We've had pretty much total agreement with, as a unit on our paving projects and improvement projects for years. So this doesn't, arguments over a particular thing don't come up, but rarely. And maybe this may have been the first or second time in the 10 years I've been county judge that this circumstance has come up. So, all right, now I'm happy to welcome to our meeting today, Teresa Gamsky is here. Thank you, Teresa. You're on one of our screens, and I know that you want to bring us up to date on the coronavirus circumstance in the county.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Judge Vogel. Good afternoon, Fiscal Court. Thank you for your time today. We're continuing to plug along in this pandemic and adjust as we go. I believe today we are up to 112 cases with 5 deaths. And so we're continuing to monitor that as testing increases, the availability of testing increases. We are still, or I'm very much still advocating for additional testing sites in Oldham County. I've reached out to the attorneys under the Commissioner for Public Health, Ms. Alexander, and also Wes Duke from the Labor Cabinet. And they have been soliciting places like Kroger and Walmart to see if we can expand those testing sites. I'm aware of a couple of sites that are on the east end of Louisville. Other than that, most testing is going on, in the west or the south end of Louisville. So we are continuing to advocate for that. There is a company called Blue Water Diagnostic Labs that is testing out of all these 7 county locations, but we're getting mixed information about that. It does require a physician's order, and so we're trying to navigate that of how we can recommend Oldham County residents to access that site as well. So we're continuing to work on that. Additionally, one other topic I just wanted to kind of give you a brief heads up about. There's been a lot of discussion and questions and maybe uncertainty and uncomfortableness about the concept of tracing or contact tracing. And you hear a lot of extreme information about that. And I just want to let you know and assure you what we do in Kentucky and at Oldham County Health Department. When we receive a positive lab result from a physician or one of the testing labs, we contact that client, and really what we're looking for is, first of all, if they were symptomatic. If they're symptomatic, we want to know who were their close contacts within the last 48 hours. That's mainly what we're looking for, or within the time period of when the past 48 hours before you had symptoms, who were you in close contact with? Most often for people, that is their family. And they've been extremely appreciative of the fact that we can assist them in preventing that virus from spreading into their extended family. So in Oldham County, we have really maybe had one incident out of the hundreds of people that we have talked to that was a little bit resistant. As far as once we have identified you and identified those potential contacts prior to those 2 days, then we are going to be in daily contact with you and just monitor if you have fever or you start to have symptoms develop. And in that regard, we'll provide additional support. So I guess what you might see on Facebook or the internet, we don't know when you go to Kroger, it's not an electronic surveillance. The IT system that the Governor Beshear is continually talking about is merely a management system to handle the numbers of these cases. So historically, we've always done contact tracing. That's how we control TB, which is very much still in our community. Of course, it would be how we would control any other contagious disease as well. So that is not a new strategy. That has always been the way we have done it. We just need an IT system to manage the huge amounts of data that we are now collecting. We will be adding some additional local contact tracers into the Oldham County Health Department. Again, those staff will be state employees, but basically what the governor is doing is he is sending us staff to back up the local health department. Because what we need to do is basically, we're kind of looking by July that we will be back to some order of business in July. So therefore we need those additional state staff to continue the contact tracing efforts that we've been doing up to now with just health department, Oldham County staff. So those folks will be in Oldham County. We hope to hire people that are residents of Oldham County. that know our community and know the ins and outs of it and that type of thing. So probably in the next week, we'll start bringing some of those positions on in that regard. This week, we were able to get the regional layer in place. Again, the governor has, allowed funding for a regional and a local layer of additional support for local health departments. So that's kind of what we're working on this week. Is there any questions I can ask for you all?
Teresa, we were told that, 10 is the largest gathering of a group that, the governor has permitted to this point. It came up earlier here that there was a question about if a larger number of people are allowed to attend any specific event, and the specific event mentioned was funeral. Do you know anything about that?
I believe by the end of June, groups of 50 will be allowed to meet. As far as we are aware, the funeral directors have been able to monitor guests at a funeral, limiting them to 10 at a time. No hugging, they're not supposed to be hugging or handshaking, that kind of thing. Wearing masks. But from our information so far, they have been able to navigate that, more or less staging people 10 at a time to come through those type of events.
All right. And so, does anybody else have any question here that they'd like to ask Teresa regarding this? Magistrate Hounds?
Teresa, you may or may not have seen the first part, but Albert Harrison gave you all extreme kudos, and hopefully you can see his words via the YouTube channel or something at a later date, because he did a very nice job. I applaud you, Albert, and I want to echo those, but I don't want to take away from what Albert said, but we do appreciate all your hard work and efforts that you and your staff are doing.
Right.
Thank you. I'll relay that on to staff. They do appreciate that.
Anyone else? All right, Teresa, thank you. Appreciate all your hard work, and everybody, as Chris mentioned and Albert mentioned. So thank you, and stay safe. Keep us up to date on anything that may be happening. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye now.
Judge,
Yes, sir.
Judge, we forgot to, on the motion for the budget, to do the standing orders also. We need to have a motion for that.
All right. Is there a motion that we pay the standing orders?
I'll make that motion, Judge.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Standing orders are just utility bills, water bill, things that come in every month routinely, and we just need to keep them paid on time. So, any discussion on that? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I guess I should say nay. All right, now we have, where are we here? Let's find out. And our next thing is from Jim Urban. This is KYTC agreement for Old LaGrange Road Bike and Pedestrian Trail. Jim, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Judge, magistrates. Jim Urban, Director of Planning and Development Services. The item in front of you today is we're asking fiscal court to approve the agreement and associated resolution and give the judge approval to sign all these documents related to an agreement between the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet and Oldham County Fiscal Court for a project on Old LaGrange Road. It's called the Bike and Pedestrian Trail. The amount in federal funds is $225,000, and the local match is $56,250, and these are for design funds. The project is on Old LaGrange Road and also on Kentucky 329 bypass. So I'm going to work a little backwards. Where 329 bypass intersects with Kentucky 146. Right there, there's a car dealership and a McDonald's. On 329 bypass, there are no sidewalks. And so we would install a sidewalk, and there's space for that sidewalk to be put in. from 146 back towards Old LaGrange Road, and then work down Old LaGrange Road all the way to North Camden Lane to create a place for safety for bicycles and pedestrians. If you remember, that's all part of the larger network in the county. Several years ago, we opened the pedestrian bridge over I-71, and so this roadway, Old LaGrange Road, has been used quite a bit. In the area that we're doing this project, there are some pretty significant commercial and industrial uses. You have the South Oldham Fire Department, Third Turn Brewery. There's a warehouse that also has office space, the Kentucky Artisan Distillery, and Udell Gardens. So the objective is to widen the road, move utilities, and put in a safe zone, if you will, for pedestrians and bicycles. So again, we're asking fiscal court to consider approving this contract or agreement with the Transportation Cabinet and allow the judge to sign all the documents.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right, Magistrate Harrison?
Thank you, Judge. Jim, all those businesses are on one side of the road. On the other side of the road, 140 Old LaGrange Road, you've got nothing but the railroad. Have we looked at putting the sidewalk between the railroad and Old LaGrange Road?
I'm not sure that we can. In some areas, the railroad is elevated, and there's a steep slope. Magistrate Harrison, are you talking about flipping it over to the other side of the railroad between 146 and the railroad?
No, LaGrange Road and the railroad.
Well, because of the right-of-way of the railroad, we're not sure exactly where it is, but you've got the steep slope, and that's why we're looking for design funds to be able to figure out which is the best route.
Well, I hope that's not taken out of the equation until you look at the dollar figures on it.
That's correct, yeah. I mean, if you look at the total budget for this project, utilities is a huge amount because on the opposite side of the street where the businesses are, there are in some cases 2 rows of utility poles. So yeah, that's what we'd be doing, is looking at all the potential design.
And if you go between the road and the railroad tracks, you don't have any driveways.
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Magistrate Hawkins?
Jim, who and what would this satisfy? Because when I first read this, and you and I have spoken about this in the past, going down Old LaGrange Road, where my district starts, would satisfy the runners and the walkers that go all the way down Old LaGrange Road, and then eventually end up at the pet groomer place up there by Steve-O's. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so this though is satisfying nobody. I mean, do people walk from Third Turn to McDonald's? Whereas that other one would satisfy a lot more people that head down that road.
Well, what I've found is that people are using that entire length of Old LaGrange Road, all the way from even inside Crestwood and some of the subdivisions. And again, the risk is that anybody that would be just using the sidewalk to walk along 146, because there is a connection to the school campus. And so somebody could, be out in the street. So we have looked at in the years past ways of trying to accommodate other safety measures on other parts of Old LaGrange Road. And because of right-of-way and everything, we've chosen to kind of come backwards, if you will. So it would all be part of the same network.
Just not this time around.
Just not this time around, right?
When could I expect that sidewalk project to be started then in my district?
Well, it won't be a sidewalk project. Again, it would be separation of pedestrian and bikes from the vehicular traffic. That would be the next phase. Okay,
and it's 6 months?
Oh, no. The way this is through KIPTA, and the way the funding works is that we put these projects in a funding cycle, and I'm probably going to be more like a few years, correct?
Judge.
All right, Magistrate Tice was next. Okay.
Yeah, I talked to Jim earlier, and the one thing I got from Jim, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, is that the sidewalk would only be on the McDonald's side of the road. It would not be on the car dealership side of the road. correct or
That's
wrong?
correct. That's
Okay,
correct.
so that's where it is, so that ties in exactly to Old LaGrange Road. There's, where you have to cross 146 or the bypass will be done at the intersection as it is right now at 146 in the bypass. The other thing that I read into when I was reading the proposal, this is just for study. The other part, it talked about property acquisition, utilities, etc., and that totaled $1,700,500 to be exact. You know, $500,000, $750,000. Who pays that fund? Are we just getting started that we're going to end up paying that $2 million or $1.7 million, or will that be granted money to us?
It's through KIPTA's SLO funding, and it's an 80-20 match. We pay 20%. So again, the study is, the design part is $225,000 plus our 250 match. So it's $275,000, $280,000 for the design. We're only paying $56,000 of it. So any of the next phases would be the same way, 20% match.
Perfect. Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure that we weren't biting into something that we couldn't financially handle.
Right.
Magistrate Hounds.
Two questions, Jim. Is this in the budget for this current year or for next year?
We put it in the capital improvement budget for the coming year.
Okay.
So starting July.
Okay, I think I do remember. Okay, second question, just as a comment, I do go up and down that road infrequently, but it is a good road to dodge some traffic for school traffic in that, and there are quite a bit of walkers and bikers. People park a lot of times at South Oldham's Firehouse, and they walk up and down Old LaGrange Road or run up and down Old LaGrange Road. So I understand it. I just the cost here just seems like to be a lot of money. We're just doing the first phase of many that could be a very expensive project. But
I do want to go back to one thing for Magistrate Hawkins. You know, this does connect to the sidewalk network in Crestwood and actually goes all the way through Pee Wee Valley. And Jefferson County, just past Juicy's, is going to put in a sidewalk that connects to Forest Springs. So it's really part of a bigger regional. So we do see people coming from Crestwood and even a little bit in Pee Wee Valley coming to Old LaGrange Road so they could ride all the way to Buckner as an example. And then when we put in the extension of Commerce Parkway across 393, it will also be part of that network. And so you'll essentially at that point be able to go from LaGrange all the way to Jefferson County. So this improvement is helpful because of that industrial traffic that's along that segment of roadway between North Camden and really the 146 intersection.
Yeah. It seems like a lot of money just to assess it or just for a study or whatever you want to call it.
Well, these end up being, construction documents. So it's along with selecting the best route and the most efficient way of doing it, it's for all the design funds. Yes, so it's construction documents. That includes examination of right-of-way, coordination with utilities and the railroad, public meetings for input.
Okay.
Magistrate Dye.
Jim, you said it's a 20% match, correct?
Yes, sir.
Well, on the forms here, it says it's 225,000, correct? And then 20% would be what?
Well, no, you add, it's really weird, you add 20%, you don't take 225 and subtract our amount from it. So the 225 plus 20% equals 281, 250.
You take 225 times 20%? That's $45,000, 20%.
There's also, well, there's 10% added for KYTC oversight. All these projects have an additional 10% because transportation cabinet's involved.
Who pays the 10%? Oh, but I'm trying to figure out how you got to $56,000. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
It's the 225 plus 10% for oversight plus 20%.
Oh, okay. So if this thing was to go further, it's $1,750,000. I can see this, plus 175,000. So at the end of the day, if we would move forward on this, the county would be on the hook for $385,000 in today's money. And of course, this stuff is projected out through year 2025, and I'm sure it's going to be further than that. So if we go further, if we spend this money, if we decide to do this, we're automatically on the hook for $385,000. Is that a fair statement?
Well, I came up, we have a chart that shows at $450,000 out of a $2,250,000 project. And that's, again, these are projections based on an estimate on our part on what the actual design is going to be. So after the design phase, we'll know what the real dollars will be.
So you get to spend $56,000, decide you want to spend another $400, correct?
That's essentially yes. Or how to spend it, right? Or if we're going to spend it.
Okay, thank you.
Magistrate Hawkins.
Jim, you mentioned right away when you were answering Magistrate Harrison's question, were you alluding to that it's likely going to be on the UDEL side, the firehouse side, and not the railroad side? The railroad side would seem cleaner. Can you answer that a little bit more clearly for me?
Well, it depends on what the design is. But if we're putting it on the railroad side, we still have to widen the road enough to be able to accommodate vehicles. So there will be right-of-way regardless. It's just where you put the roadway. And Magistrate Harrison's idea was good in that if you put the pedestrian side and bike path next to the railroad, there aren't any driveways. So they have less conflict. But you're still going to buy right-of-way to make sure that the roadway's wide enough.
And then when we move on to... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, this won't be a shared use with the roadway like you see in downtown Louisville. This is going to be its own dedicated lanes. And so you still have to have 2 lanes of traffic.
Okay, and then when we move on to my district, I think that would be cleaner as well to stay on the railroad side because of the additional driveways on the other side, residential.
It probably would, but you'll still have to buy right-of-way for that section because, again, you still have to have a roadway wide enough for vehicles to pass, plus a dedicated area for bikes and peds.
Gotcha.
All right, are there any other questions?
Magistrate Harrison had a question.
Did somebody else have their hand up? I didn't see. All right. All right, is there a motion that we accept
So,
this?
Judge, if I
Okay,
can-
we don't have a motion on the floor
And
yet.
Judge, there's a resolution. I want to make sure that that's included in the motion, that not only they accept it, but allow you to sign the resolution and all the documents.
Judge, I did have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, Jim, one thing I haven't mentioned is how this could and probably will tie into economic development. It's my understanding from talking with the state people in Frankfurt that if a business is looking to relocate in Kentucky, and there's another county theoretically identical to Oldham County, and we have the walking and hiking and biking trail, and they don't, we probably get the business to come here. It just gives us another amenity to make Oldham County appealable to people trying to relocate. So there's more to it than just the dollars and cents that it costs to build something. Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion that be allowed to sign this resolution and approving the execution of this agreement between Fiscal Court and the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet?
Make that motion, Judge.
We already have a first and second.
We do?
But not the resolution part of it. I don't have the number in front of me.
Who made, I missed that. Who made the motion?
I did.
Originally? Okay. All right.
Magistrate Likens, would you like the resolution number?
Yes.
I have it on here, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, 01-06-02-20.
Okay, Judge, I will make that motion to allow you to sign that document for that resolution.
I'll second again.
All right, thank you, okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say yay.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no, nay. Was that one?
Nay, one.
Okay, one. All right, motion carries 8-1, thank you. Magistrate Harrison, did I get that right?
I think it's just aye and nay.
Yes, okay. Yes and no is where I grew up, but anyway.
That'll work.
That'll work. Okay, Rodney Gabbard is back with us here, and he has examined the bid for the senior center cabinetry and countertops. He's standing at the podium, but I'm not sure anybody hear you or see you, or, all right, Jay's trying to help him. Are you there?
Yes.
You there? Can anybody see him?
Can't see him.
Okay, you can't see him, but you can hear him. All right, go ahead, Rodney.
Melissa did confirm that they are okay with the state. The bid is $11,800 to replace all cabinetry and all countertops.
At the senior center.
Yes.
Right. Is there a motion that we go forward with that bid?
I'll make that motion, Judge.
I'll second.
All right, moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on that? I'm looking to see if there are any hands up. I don't see any. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Anyone opposed to it? Okay. Motion carries 9-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda here, my audio isn't too good, so I'm hearing, but it's kind of, there's a delayed feature to it for some reason. I'll be happy when we get back in here and we're all seated between our fiberglass particle boards here, whatever the fiberglass boards, protecting each other this way. I've got a resolution here that basically that we need to get approved for us to be able to submit to the Department for Local Government to get recovery on any expenses we have in relation to the COVID virus. Oldham County has been allocated up to $2.7 million by the state. I believe the 2.7 includes everybody that's doing anything in Oldham County that in the way of unusual or extra expenses, but we'll have some. We've had some additional expenses in regard to supplies, and that's a key element right there. So, and including the fiberglass panels that we're surrounded here by now. These funds are not available for normal budget expenses that we would have had, but we'll do what we can with it, and we may be able to. We're able to hire some people part-time to help with recycling and mowing if we need that, or maintenance other places. The issue being we don't know how long the inmates are going to be out. So I don't want to hire somebody for a week, but we'll work with corrections to see if they can give us any indication on how long we may be able to employ any part-time workers we pick up. So rather than me read this entire agenda or resolution, I think you all have it and see it there. It basically is to submit in a satisfactory fashion bills to the Department for Local Government, and these are for COVID Relief Fund reimbursement. Is there a motion that be able to submit this resolution?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Second, all right. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Nay, any nays? Motion carries. All right, next item here is the flood mitigation grant award. Jim Urban, did you disappear? He was here.
I'm back, Judge.
All right, there
Thank
you
you.
are.
First of all, I apologize that this is kind of pushed in at the last minute, but I was just alerted to this yesterday since Becky Zockline has been out of the office. This is asking fiscal court to allow the judge to sign this contract with the Commonwealth of Kentucky Division of Emergency Management. And actually, it's a revised contract. We've signed this in the past. The amount is actually less because we had two properties that asked us to withdraw. As you know, elevation projects on the river or in the floodplain are voluntary, and even after being awarded the grant, the owners can still back out. So this is for the FEMA, the FMA 2016 grant, the flood mitigation, and it's in the amount of $1,390,847.28, and the effective date is the 15th of this month. And again, that's why there's the urgency to do this. And it is for until February of 2021 now to extend the project. Again, it's the original amount was $1,700,000 and some change, and two projects were withdrawn. I did not actually have time to ask Mr. Carter to review this, but I've looked at all the aspects of this, and the only two things that have changed is that total price that's gone down and the effective date. So again, I ask that you consider allowing the judge to sign this contract.
Make that motion, Judge.
Is there a second? All right, moved and, all right, seconded. Questions, Magistrate Greenwell?
Thank you, Judge. I don't know that I'm comfortable voting on something that Mr. Carter hadn't reviewed.
Well, I wanted to be honest about that, but again, it's the same contract that was signed originally, except that, again, the date, effective date, and the amount has changed.
All right, Magistrate Hawkins?
I'm not comfortable voting on something that I haven't read, and for some reason, I'm checking my email now. I'm sure it came this morning, but I just haven't read it yet, so I'm sorry.
That's all right. Again, I was just notified yesterday that the deadline was yesterday because the effective date is the 15th of this month. And again, we got this email. Usually Becky Zockline is the one who takes it through the process. We couldn't find that she did that. And so that's why there's the urgency to continue. To put it in today and ask you to sign it.
Jim, how many years have we signed this now already?
Since 2014. This particular one, this will be the second the second time. We signed it in, I think the original date was in March, maybe of 2017 was the original date.
And it's essentially the same contract with the amount and the date change from last year and the year before.
That's correct, and it's for less money.
Magistrate Hawkins?
I just see it on mine. I got it at 10:55 this morning, so I'd like to just, maybe we can come back to it, or maybe I can read it real quick.
All right, Magistrate Hounds?
Judge, I think that I understand the sense of urgency with this, and maybe what we can do is approve it with the caveat that it gets reviewed by Mr. Carter. I understand what Chairman Urban's saying, and it seems like a boilerplate document, but I think to cover ourselves, we need to have Mr. Carter look at it.
I will amend my motion to say that based on John Carter's approval of this, that we pass it.
I'll second that again.
All right. All right, we've passed that over to Mr. Carter here to take a look at. And any further comments? Magistrate Hawkins?
Jim, are there specific addresses? You said that 2 removed themselves. Are there others? And I did read where it went down from 2 million something to the 1.39.
Yes.
Are there? Okay.
There were 2 addresses, and I'm sorry I didn't
Just
put
give me
that
the
in my
street.
packet. But
You probably shouldn't say their exact address, but what streets?
Riverside.
this one is on Riverside Drive.
Both of them are, or one?
Yes. Both.
Both of them?
Yes.
Why did the other two remove themselves? Are they doing it with their own funds, or did they just change their mind and moving forward with the project?
That's going to be a long answer. Everybody has certain circumstances. One of the things is that you have to have the money to kind of put up front and pay the bills. You have to be able to go and contract with somebody to do the elevation project. Sometimes people, after getting the grant, realize that they don't have the finances to be able to do it. Others, maybe the original contractor isn't willing to do the project again, and they have to go back and get new estimates. So there are a number of circumstances.
Is this where we raised the house, or is this something different that we talked about?
These were elevations, yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think we've already done $6.1 million with these grants already.
Yes, and about 24 properties, correct.
I read this before. I'm comfortable.
Right, Mr. Carter has looked through it, and he's comfortable with it here.
It's governed by federal regulations, and you can't change any of them or you don't get the money. So, I mean, it's not.
Take it or leave it.
It's a take it or leave it kind of deal.
All right, we've had the motion and the second. Any further discussion on this? Can't see everybody's picture. I don't see any hands going. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 8-1. Okay, thank you.
Judge, can I have a quick question?
Sure.
I'm sure that the finance committee knows these answers, but and I know we could ask Melissa and she would furnish those to us. But can we get a running total of what the county's on the hook for these matching funds and how much we're owed? And it's 25,000 here, 60,000 here. Eventually they add up. Is there any way that we could get a running total of our matching grants that we have?
Yes, I don't have it at my fingertips, but
No, I understand that. I just, every time or every other time we'll say, well, we need this for this matching grant, so much money. And, I'm just sitting there thinking, I wonder how many millions of dollars we're, up to. So I would just like to know what the running total is. And I know that the county is keeping up with it. I'm not saying anything, just for my own information. I'd like to know.
right. Well, it's not a significant number. I can tell you that right now. But,
I understand.
okay. Yeah.
It was just a question.
Sure. All right. Now moving on.
Can I?
Yes, sir.
Judge, I think that his question, Mr. Urban could add to that list with some of his road projects. So if you want to get a complete picture, I believe you need to discuss that with him also.
No, I agree. That's what I'm talking about. I want everything.
All right. Well, those aren't his road projects. They're our road projects, and they're for the county. But we'll include everything. Okay. Personnel actions. We have the road department, a resignation. And we also have another resignation at dispatch, people moving on to something else. Kiefer Johnson resigns from road department. Chris Stess from dispatch. Motion to accept these resignations, please.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have a seasonal hire here, laborer Brian Clark, $13 an hour at the Parks Department to help with our grass mowing there. That's pending a background check. All in favor of hiring Mr. Clark, please say aye.
Make that motion, Judge.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay. All right, next item here is, the way these, with everybody turning their microphone on and off, you can't get the sense of everybody's agreeing on it or if somebody isn't agreeing, so that's why I'm asking. I have two people,
Judge,
okay,
before we move on from that, Judge, personnel actions, Ryan Clark, I don't see that any of mine. I'm gonna abstain since that's the first I've heard that name. I didn't see it on anything that I received. I'm sorry.
all right, I don't know why you didn't receive it. Anybody else have it?
It was sent to us yesterday, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in Sheila's packet.
I've got Kiefer Johnson, roads, effective 5/29, Christus, dispatch, effective 6/3.
Okay,
So it's okay, I'll abstain from that one.
okay, Measure Greenwell.
Thank you, Judge. Getting back to the park seasonal hire, are we gonna hire this guy and let him start mowing grass tomorrow, or wait till the background check?
Everybody has to have the background check, so,
I know that, but are we gonna let him go ahead and start mowing grass?
no. You can't start until you get your background check, so, but we're gonna start him as soon as we get it, but not before we get it.
Okay.
Okay,
That's on the assumption it's a good one.
right, right. All right, on the appeal, I've got some board appointments here. First of all, two people to appoint to the Board of Assessment Appeals. This is a board meets in January to examine complaints about the PVA assessment of properties, if there are complaints. I'm recommending Larry Benzik and Mark Nasser. They're both real estate agents here in Oldham County, and I believe have a good understanding of the market and should be able to assess a property if there is a objection. Could I? Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Not necessarily objecting, but don't we have a lady by the name of Nasser sitting on the planning commission
Yes,
out of the population?
right.
Is that the same family?
Yeah, her husband, right.
And I would think out of the 55 to 60,000 people we got here in the county, we wouldn't have to have two out of the same family
Well,
appointed to a board. I mean, it's just,
I don't see what the issue is really. Both the professional people, the Board of Appeals meets once in June, if there are any complaints at all. Getting people to serve on boards is not as easy as everybody might think, and so I'm happy to accept recommendations when things come up. I'll notify you when things are coming up. But these are free jobs. I'm happy to have people who say they're willing to, commit some time to doing it if it's necessary. So it meets once
I
in
think
June.
they get paid on that board. Judge, I think they get paid on that board.
I'm not aware of it if they do. I don't know who pays them. I don't think we do. They may get the state?
I believe so.
I've never been, I'm asked to get people periodically. The other people who were on this board, their terms expired. And,
But you do get paid. I've been on that board before.
you do?
Yes.
How much is it?
I mean, by the state.
How much is it, would you say?
$100.
$100 for the day? Okay. Are there any other questions about this?
I've got a question for Magistrate Harrison.
Uh-huh.
You think it's a conflict, Magistrate Harrison?
No, not necessarily. It just, I like spreading it out and getting as much of a knowledge base and experience in the county as we can.
Judge, I know you had asked me to make some recommendations, and I did ask some people. And to your point, it's difficult. Of the couple people I asked, they were unwilling to make the commitment, which I found interesting.
games also, Judge, so I'm sure you tried them out too.
Right. I mean, we try to get people matched up with experience for each one of our boards that we have, and, but, you know, not everybody is willing to do it. And, particularly a board that may have some, controversy about it, in the sense that you have to make a decision somebody may not like. It's easy to make decisions everybody likes, but,
They're not gonna like it.
yeah, right, so, all right. Anybody else like to weigh in on this? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, I didn't, anyone, who's opposed to this? Anybody? Didn't get everybody.
Who made the motion? Who was first and second?
I made the motion, who seconded it? Anyone?
I'll second it.
Okay. All right, do we need a roll call vote on this? Sheila, will you take one, please?
Sure.
And I'd like to remind everybody that this board meets in about a week or so, and if we don't have anybody, I don't know what the option there is. So, go ahead.
All right, Manager Tice,
Yes.
Manager Greenwell,
Yes.
Manager Linkins,
Yes.
Manager Harrison,
Yes.
Manager Dye,
Yes.
Manager Hawkins,
Yes.
Manager Helms,
Yes.
Manager Logston,
Yes.
and Judge Vogel.
Yes. Motion carries 9-0. Thank you. The next person I'd like to recommend here is to a continuing position on our Oldham County Economic Development Board. That is Gary Hardy. I think most of you probably know Gary. Gary's a banker here at Farmers Bank in LaGrange and is a longtime Oldham County resident. Has participates in many civic organizations that can be counted on to provide good guidance and interpretation of things, and can be counted on to work when there is work to be done. So I'd like to recommend Gary. If I could give
I'll
us.
second that.
Okay. All right. Any discussion on that? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Judge, did you skip Ms. Nazer on the appeals board also?
No, I think we had them both.
No.
We did them both.
That's what we just voted on.
That's what- Yeah, we did them both. The two of them I mentioned at the same time.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, and the last appointment here I have today is I'd like to recommend to the Code Enforcement Board the appointment of J. Scott Judy. Some of you may know Jay Scott. He's the executive director and president of the Masonic Home in Jefferson County. Runs a very big operation there. He's got a very impressive resume and done many things over the years, and I think can be counted on to provide fair and even treatment on the Code Enforcement Board for those individuals that have to be brought before the board. You know, we've gone to having our code enforcement officer issue citations to people that are outside the rules of our ordinances. But if you want to appeal your citation, or if you have to feel because you can't listen, you can go before the Code Enforcement Board, and I think Jay Scott will do a good job there. Is there a second on my motion?
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Thank you. We're down to the, pardon? Somebody,
Judge Albert,
okay, sorry.
concerning the code enforcement,
Yes?
we have I guess an absentee because of personal issues with Darrell. Are there any plans to fill that position? Because right now, we do not have a code enforcement officer. My complaints are building up.
Well, Thomas Mattingly, is it, down there, has taken over that position and tried to function there as best we can. Our code officer is in a bad situation. He's ill, and his illness is serious, and we don't know, I can't really replace him. Don't want to do that because I want to keep his spirits as high as we can under a difficult circumstance. But I agree with you, we need attention. I've been actually picking up illegal signs myself this week, and so we can use help there, but we may be able to call on somebody who's had the position in the past and ask them if they would pinch hit for a while. I'm not sure, but I'm open to recommendations on what we might do there. Yes, sir. Manager Greenwell.
Is it possible we could contract with another code enforcement agent in the county to fill in the slack and pay them accordingly?
Maybe. There is only one that I'm aware of, but the city of LaGrange has a code enforcement officer, and we may be, depending on that person's workload, may be able to help us out to some extent there. I'm not sure. It's a good idea. It's worth asking about, but we'll discuss it with planning and zoning and see what we can do.
Okay.
All right.
Judge,
Yes, sir.
it's not above the managers just to pull up illegal signs. I do it all the time.
Right. Well, we all help out. It's a problem with many people that don't understand the sign ordinance. They think they can put a sign up anywhere. I spoke with someone today who put up 6 or 7 signs in illegal circumstances, basically at right-of-ways on the state highways, and we just can't have people doing that. It junk up the whole place if we're not, if we didn't stay on top of it, and we do try to stay on top of it, but the signs multiply faster than we can get them down sometimes. And I had one taken off a sign at the southbound exit of I-71 at 393 yesterday. It was put on there, and it was tied on pretty hard. It shouldn't be on a yield sign or a stop sign, but sometimes you might need a bolt cutter or something to get through all the wire that goes with them. So they're up under all shapes and circumstances, but we try to work with these advertisers that, we don't want to hurt someone's business. On the other hand, we don't want them to junk up the county. So we try to walk the narrow line of satisfying the ordinance and not, impeding the business from trying to be successful. We mentioned earlier about our code enforcement officer being sick, and he is definitely in our prayers and thoughts with his struggle. I'd also like to mention and remember today the husband of Becky Zockline, George Zockline, died in the past week or so, and between meetings here. And George was 80 years old, was caught up with the sickness that is hurting many people right now, and we're very sorry for the Zockline family loss. And I'd like to take a moment now and ask that we have a moment of silence and remembrance of George Zockline, and pray for Becky and her family. Thank you. All right, we've arrived at the end of today's meeting, and we'll allow magistrates here and invite them to make any final comments they might like to make. We're struggling through our maybe perhaps second to last meeting in the current circumstance on Zoom and being separated. When we get all back together, I think we'll all really enjoy being able to sit down and have a normal meeting. It's when you lose the normalcy of something and start to miss what you took for granted before. And so our meetings will be great to get back together. So I think we'll probably have one, possibly two more meetings this month under this circumstance. As you know, we generally in June move our first meeting in July up to the last week of June so that we can get our bills paid. I'd like to suggest that we have a special meeting on, I believe it's June 28th. That's Monday. Tuesday is the last day of the month, and Wednesday is July 1. So if that's all right with everyone, I'd like to make that recommendation that we do that.
Judge, what date did you say?
Monday, June 28th.
It'd be 29th.
Excuse me, 29th.
Tuesday, June 30th.
Okay, yeah, okay, the 29th then. We want a day before the June 1st so we can get our bills out on time, so. Is there a motion, is that all right with everybody?
What time, Judge?
Monday, the 29th? Okay.
Right, I mean, it'd be just apparently a short meeting. We okay for 2 o'clock on that? All right. Well, I'll set that as the date then. Let's see if we have any final comments here. We can go around and Magistrate Logston.
Judge, I just pray that our country comes together. We are so polarized right now in division. I don't know, we've got to come together or we're going to lose our nation.
I hope that wouldn't be the case, but we do need to solve some problems, that's for sure. Magistrate Likens.
Thank you, Judge. I would encourage everybody in the county to get the Oldham Air. It has local news. I thoroughly enjoyed reading about Bob Jones. He is kind of the smoke behind a lot of things that happen in the county. And I just wanted to say that my vote against the members of the Finance Committee was not a vote against them in any way. It was to get this process started to start improving some of our roads in the county. And I mean improve them. I don't mean pave them over and over. And I would like to ask you to clarify whether we're still having the July the 4th fireworks. I think last time we let that kind of open.
Well, that's a decision that's still up in the air, and it's right on us here. I don't know. We can cancel it out. We haven't canceled it out yet, but the way circumstances are, I think we'll ask for guidance from the governor's office. Certainly don't want a big crowd coming to Wendell Park. People can park in vehicles, but Oldham County High School and maybe the country club and can park in the area, but it takes away from the ability to be there in person. So I don't really know at this point. I'm willing to accept recommendations from the magistrates if anybody'd like to make one.
I think people pretty well social distance at those events, but you do see family members sitting side by side. They're probably already in contact before they got there.
Right. We could maybe let some people stay in their cars in the parks. I think we heard Teresa Gamsky say that after July 1st, up to 50 people could gather in a group or be in a group setting. But, we've had, I couldn't guess the number, but I know I'd say, it might be a couple thousand people show up there in the past for the fireworks. So it's kind of a tough call, to be honest about it. And I don't want to have to postpone things that we've done, that part of our tradition here. On the other hand, we don't want to endanger people, but we've seen TV screens full of people who have thrown the coronavirus concerns to the wind. And
we could always move it to Memorial Day, maybe.
That's an idea.
I mean Labor Day.
Right. Well, I'll be thinking about that, between now and the end of the month. And so I welcome any email correspondence or telephone, if any of you want to call me and discuss it. Certainly don't have the absolute right judgment about it. I mean, whatever I decide is what I decide, but it may not, I'd like it to be the best decision, but want to be safe. And as far as the pool goes, that's another one that is hanging out there. I think pools are allowed to open July 1. I've heard the director of the state health department say that the pools are a very dangerous circumstance, and whether or not enough pressure got ramped up to force the governor to open pools, I don't know. Some communities have already announced that they will not be opening their pool. That's another decision that we've held off on, kind of to the last minute, to see if anything happens that would give us a clearer vision on what to do. So both of these are in about the same category. All right, the Magistrate Dye, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think the pool and the fireworks, we need to tread very carefully there. You're talking about the pressure on the pool to the governor. I think that came from the public sector, not the, from the private sector, not the public sector. I think we need to be very careful about that. And, that's it.
Magistrate Hounds?
Nothing today, sir, thank you.
Magistrate Hawkins?
Regarding the fireworks in the pool, we'll have a Parks Committee meeting on the 16th. And we're still meeting that day, right, Judge?
Yes.
For fiscal court? Okay.
Right.
And,
But we're going to have to be in this same format.
yeah. Okay, so maybe you and me and Gary and Brent and Wayne could, you know, maybe meet at the Parks Committee meeting that morning and come to a decision if that works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, then, you know, I'll go along with whatever you decide on that day.
All right, well, I mean, let's keep ourselves open to whatever we need to do. We've got another month to think about it here, so we don't have to jump on it immediately. Maybe things will lighten up in some way that will allow us to go forward, but I agree with Magistrate Dye. Our first priority is the safety of our community, so, and that we're not medically trained, so we have to listen to the voices that are and make our discernment from there. Magistrate Tice. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Okay. No, I was going to say, other than that was it.
Okay. Magistrate Tice.
I have nothing today, Judge. I think everything's been said.
Okay. Magistrate Greenwell.
Well, not everything's been said, Magistrate.
I'm sorry.
I'm a bit of a historian, and this is the first time I can remember, I'm just doing a little reflecting here, that this is the first time we've passed a budget that was passed with all three of the Finance Committee voting no. At least that's what I can remember in 14 years of having committees.
All right. Magistrate Magistrate Harrison.
Yes, thank you, Judge. Quick footnote on the fireworks. I'll remind you that Labor Day weekend this year is going to be Derby Day 2020. So any event we might have on that weekend, we're competing with the big boys. To include probably Thunder over Louisville, the parade, and the Derby. So maybe we can pick another weekend. Real quickly on Veterans Observance Days, we got a big one coming up Saturday, June 6th. That's the anniversary of D-Day. So watch for specials on television. They've got some pretty interesting films that have been made about it. We talked a lot about roads. I'm going to get on my high horse here about the state highways. I don't know how to get to them, but when I drive around the county, I see ditches clogged with limbs, tree trunks, and other natural vegetation. It's my understanding that we cannot have individuals clean out those ditches unless we obtain a permit from the state. I would like to know how we can light a fire under the state maintenance people, because that's their job. It should not be our job. And some of these roads we've got are scenic byways. I've got one, Highway 524. And if you think it's scenic, you best not drive it during the daytime because it gets pretty ugly. Another issue on Westport has been brought to my attention. I'm going to start checking on it in the evenings. We are having a form of vandalism down there and law breaking that should not be tolerated, and I will do what I can to stop it. We've got hot rodders who are making the parking lot at Schomburg Park their little playground with wheelies and burnouts and donuts. And then to finish it off, they take off down Highway 524, the part that's called Main Street. And by the time they get to the water company, they're doing an estimated 50 to 60 miles an hour, 35 miles on. They're not being respectful of others. They're not being responsible for their own behavior. And I'm going to do whatever I can to put a stop to it. We've got people walking down there on both sides of Main Street and the side streets in the evening with their kids, with their grandkids, with their dogs. And we've got these yahoos that don't have a brain, endangering everybody who's down there. So find another playground, and I will help you do that. We're going to do what we can to shut down your playground in Westport. Thank you.
All right, have you discussed that with the police department?
It's top of the list.
Okay. It's the first I've heard of it, but we don't want anybody engaging in any dangerous behavior in Schomburg Park or anywhere else in Oldham County for that matter.
Well, Albert, they won't go too fast past the water company because the road will slow them down. They won't come out of Westport too fast after the water company because the road will slow them down.
No, it won't.
How is speed?
No, they're good for another mile after that.
Okay.
Trust me.
There's a destiny there somewhere.
All right, I thank you all for being with us today. I think it's now just about 4:30, so why don't we go ahead and end this meeting before we get ourselves in any kind of hot water here. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned.